Hello there, my name is Auke Plantinga, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can use Excel for a simulation study to test investment strategies from a given set of scenarios. There are more than one way of setting up a simulation study. I have another video where I show you how you can generate scenarios dynamically within the spreadsheet, for instance by doing a Monte Carlo simulation. I show in that video how you can use the functions norm.inv, inverse of the normal distribution, and a random generator to create scenarios and generated from a normal distribution, which essentially recalculates the full spreadsheet each time you hit a button. And that's exactly where this is problematic, because each time you hit a button it recalculates. That takes time, and the bigger your spreadsheet gets, the more annoying this will be. And on top of that, when you want to debug your spreadsheet because there's some error in your investment strategy, you like to see the same numbers that were indicating to you that you had an error. And if you press the button and everything changes, this becomes, difficult. So in this video I propose an alternative way of doing it, and that's based on a given set of scenarios. So rather than generating new scenarios all the time, you generate scenarios separately and copy these fixed scenarios to the spreadsheet that you want to use. And that makes it faster and easier to develop and correct errors in your model. It also allows you to use scenarios provided from external sources, like for instance historical data from different countries, or scenarios generated by more advanced software that allows you to impose properties to the data in addition to those for a normal Monte Carlo simulation. For instance, you could kind of impose correlation between returns of different asset classes. You could have stuff like mean reversion, other things that are not that easy to generate within Excel. Well, how to do that? Well, it starts by having this set of scenarios, and in this case I have a set of scenarios that are collected and stored in the tab sheet scenarios, and in this case my scenarios are in the columns. So in column B we have the first scenario, and that scenario lasts for 10 periods. So you could imagine that these are 10 years of annual stock market returns, and you see a lot of pluses, and we have a bad scenario in time 7 and a bad one in at time 9. And so that could be one scenario. Another one could be scenario number 2, where we start with a really bad scenario of minus 29%, etc. Some very good scenarios in the next period. So a lot of fun in this scenario. And scenario 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so the whole idea is that we want to test an investment strategy by calculating the outcome for each scenario, so for each sequence of. So now I've switched to sheet 2, where is the actual model. And this is a pretty straightforward model where I have a constant mix strategy that allocates 80% to stocks. And so you can see I indeed stayed with 800 invested in stocks, and each time I reallocate money to stocks, so I keep a fixed percentage in stocks all the time. And in this case I end up with a portfolio value of 2,327.67. Now I can do scenario 2. Scenario 2 starts with this stock market crash and a high upward return. And look again, it picks these numbers from essentially the second scenario in this spreadsheet. You see, and you just do number 3, and then we see we indeed start with 36.88 and end with 5.69. So it gets these numbers from this error here and plugs it in here. Then it calculates, the evolution of the strategy, and now I see a final value of 2124. And now we want to do, of course, a calculation of all possible outcomes, and I'm going to use the so-called data table function. And to set this function, to use this table function well, I use the top row for collecting the data items I want to have. So in this case, I want to have the stock market value, and so here I have a link to cell D19. Here I put the scenarios, and so, well, we need 500 of them. So I drag them below and, you know, a bit up again. So somewhere here. Right, so we got 500 scenarios, and now I'm going to use the data table function. What the data table function is going to do is it's going to collect from this column the scenario, first scenario, plugs in that number into field B6, recalculates the whole thing, picks up the 2124 and plugs it in here. Then for the second one, it pulls number 2, plugs it in here, recalculates, collects the variable over here until all 500 variables have been calculated. So where do I find this beautiful data table function? You can find it in the what if analysis in the data menu, and check the data table function, and then you need to select the column input cell, and the column input cell, that's this number 3. And so this is how it's going to work. And when I press OK, it will do it very fast. Right, so this is fun, isn't it? So it essentially collects all the potential scenarios. It takes very little time to do it, and you know, now I have all the scenarios, I can do like summary statistics on that. So I can calculate, for instance, the average, and that's fun, you know. And I can do the median, also nice to know. Median. And so calculate anything I want. I also could, this is kind of a neat little trick, I could calculate the probability that the value is below 800. So that's the amount of times that we hit the trigger. That might be an interesting statistics. So what I'm now going to do here is, you know, maybe a bit outside of the scope of this video, but it's a neat trick. I do average and then open twice a bracket. Then I select the top cell, go below, I type smaller than 800 times 1. So what I'm doing here, I calculate for each cell whether it's below 800. That gives a boolean, a true or a false outcome. Well, you can't do calculations with true or false, and that's why I multiplied with 1. So true becomes 1, false 0. And you know, the average of this number is essentially the probability that we fall below 800. And here you see we have 2.4% probability of this strategy having a value of less than 800. Fun, isn't it? So you can do a lot of things here. So we've seen now how to do 500 scenarios in a very fast way with a very simple model. Of course, you can do different models here, so you could calculate all kind of complicated strategies here. You could calculate the portfolio turnover, the minimum value and the maximum value during this row, whatever you want, and collect it over here. And so that's basically it. And the good thing is, you know, that you can kind of use the same scenarios all over again. At the same time, you may want to test this strategy on a different set of scenarios, and then you could replace the scenarios in this step sheet with a new set generated in the way you like it best. Okay, I hope this is useful for you, and yeah, just try it and see what you can do with it. good luck.